Anchor's up. Sails at full. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
Doing all right, Jared. How are you doing today?
I am, hold on. Flaps to 50%. Power set to takeoff. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today? Nomad doesn't like it when the Navy talks, so I think he's trying to give us an alternative.
Eh.
Eh.
We're sticking with us. We're sticking with what we do here. This is our Scarlet and Grade episode, and oh boy, Jared. Oh boy, do we have an episode today, don't we?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different ways. I'm very. Why are you effing? There's a couple different ways that I haven't listened to anyone's like post game. I can't listen to another podcast post game because then I'll just, especially if it's Tony or Tom, because they're goated, like they're the best, right? And if I listen to anything they do, I will just like find myself repeating what they say. So I haven't listened. I don't know like what other people are. Even Tom Orr said the coaching deserved an F.
We'll get to that soon.
We'll get there. I disagree, but so I'm just curious, like, how are we going to fall in the grand scheme of like other people's reactions to this game? I have a very mixed opinion. I feel like my opinion on this is going to be pretty moderate. It's going to be somewhat moderate. It's like I don't feel like I'm coming into this too hot or too cold. I don't know, Kyle. Just general vibe. I mean, other than the game just being frustrating, right? Because it was frustrating. And there are, Jared, you know how we feel about. Stop it. Obviously the game was frustrating. And like, we'll talk about the weather and we'll talk about a lot of things, but as far as like your feeling about Ohio State, about the players, about the coaching, like where are you falling as far as like your feelings coming out of the game, generally speaking?
Yeah, I watched the game a second time, Jared, and yeah, it didn't make me feel any better than the first time. I was hoping to learn a little more about the game, but I think it's the same reaction, same thoughts that I had watching it the first time, and it was just pathetic. I'll just be honest. It was just a pathetic showing from Ohio State from what we expected here. Here we are, 9th game of the season. Yes, the weather was terrible. It was so windy and couldn't even pass the ball, but you couldn't run worth shit. Yes, Ohio State was able to rush it for almost 6 yards a carry, but it didn't tell the whole story of what we saw in this game here. 4 for 15 third downs, put up 21 points, only 13 first downs in the entire game. Yeah, exactly. Wolf. Yeah, not a good showing here. And you can see both sides of the ball here. Northwestern dominated Ohio State on both sides of the ball there.
So, a couple thoughts. One, of the two teams, who was going to be better prepared to play in like tropical storm conditions? I mean, just
neither team.
Exactly. So what does that do? It neutralizes the talent and it neutralizes the teams, which is essentially what we saw here, right? Northwestern had like one good drive and they got a touchdown. And like, were they better at avoiding 3 and outs than Ohio State? Yes, they were. Did they have more yards than Ohio State? Did they finish? I know late in the game they did. Did they finish with more yards? 2 more? 2 less?
2 more.
So we can look at all that and we can be upset by it.
And you should.
I don't know if you should. How often is elephant in the room? Alabama lost. Other elephant in the room. Wow, that everyone listen to the Tuesday episode. We'll talk about that.
Tennessee lost. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
Elephant in the room. Elephant in the room. 30 sustained wind at 30 miles an hour, gust up to 50. We're talking about a smaller stadium that's not super protected from the wind. You know, we're right off of the lake. Again, gust at 50 miles an hour. Did you see the pregame? Did you see the pregame of the kickers trying to kick field goals where the ball was literally coming back at them?
Yeah, it was quite hilarious.
Ryan Day in the press conference said, and, you know, rule 1, the doctor lies. Acknowledged. But one of the reasons he addressed that, like, there were so many drops, why there were so many drops was that even when the ball was getting there, it was getting there, like, not spiraled. It was like knuckleballing, right? The ball was not being delivered in a way that was easily catchable. They couldn't throw the ball more than 10 yards downfield without the pass being completely disruptive. And then you can say, well, but they were terrible at running. What does that have to do with the running? Well, if you can't, Jared is a fan of, stop it. What? Yes, they were. Yes, they were, Stuart. The point I'm trying to make here is that even the running game then in turn is struggling, because if you can't throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field, then the other team can essentially put 9-10 guys in the box. And Ohio State really just isn't equipped to deal with that. One of the, and this has been the case for Ohio State for a long time. This is not unique to Ryan Day. It is not unique to 2022. But did they do that? Yes, Northwestern did that. Their safety, they were playing man on man with the wide receivers, or did our O-line stink? The interior of the offensive line is still having issues. I'm not totally going to just be like, oh, but no, that doesn't, everything, because they were having issues like for 3 weeks on. The interior of the offensive line has been having issues 3 weeks on now.
That's a big concern right now.
It's a big concern.
Big concern.
It's a big concern. Absolutely.
But here's an interesting stat, Jared.
But real quick, Ohio State was just not equipped to deal with, 10 guys up in the box, 9 guys up in the box. Ohio State's been in a hard place, between a rock and a hard place, for a real long time. Ohio State wants to both compete nationally and win Big Ten games. And the unfortunate part of that is you kind of need opposite teams to do that. Because hold on, let me finish this. You need opposite teams to do that. In order to win in the Big Ten consistently, you need to have like huge linebackers and big defensive linemen and run blocking safeties. And you need to have these giant tight ends, and you kind of need to be a little big and a little slow. But in order to compete nationally, you have to be ultra fast and ultra athletic. You mean run stopping safeties. What did I say? Did I say something different? Yes, I did. Run blocking. Okay. Yes. Run stopping safeties. this is, and when you get into a game like this, where Northwestern has tight ends the size of offensive tackles and linebackers the size of your defensive ends, and then you get into a situation in which like passing is practically off the table. That puts you in a really hard spot because Northwestern is better conditioned to essentially say, screw it, we're Navy today. Northwestern played this game like they were Navy.
But still, Jared, like this is Ohio State has the better athletes. They have the better coaches. But in this game here, Ohio State coaching staff did not set up this team for success.
I agree.
They knew what the weather was going to be.
I agree.
And it seemed like they were surprised once they stepped off the bus, like, oh shit, it's windy here. It's rainy here. I don't know what to do. Oh, let's throw the ball 26 times and see what happens.
I agree. I agree with everything you're saying, Kyle.
It's like what Coach Knowles said at the beginning of the season. He said that if the defense does not, and verbatim here, but pretty much if the defense does not perform well during the game, that's on him. He didn't prepare the team. And that's what we saw here. The defense played pretty well. I think the defense overall played well. There's definitely areas like certain third down situations and early tackling was an issue, but I think overall the defense did pretty well, held a team under 300 yards. But the offense, it just seemed so unprepared for this game. It was so bad.
I like the game plan was, yeah, you said it. They acted like they were. We were talking about what the weather could be when we recorded Know Your Enemy on Wednesday. And you're absolutely right, Kyle. It does. You're right. It showed up like they were surprised that there were 50-degree gusts.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
You're absolutely right in that point. To be fair, I believe Jared did call this Northwestern game the possible road upset during the wasteland. I did. Guys, take a moment to be thankful. Take a moment to be thankful. This was this year's Iowa-Purdue game. This is your.
I'm gonna make it better.
This is your later. This is late in the season road trip to the Big Ten West. This is what this was, and you got out of it with a win.
I'm going to make it a better comparison. This is Ohio State, Illinois, 2006. This was when Troy Smith won the Heisman. It was the first Saturday in November. Went on the road to face a 2-7 Illinois team. Got out with a 17-10 ugly.
Exactly, game. Randy.
Your Heisman winner Troy Smith threw only 108 yards in that game. Did not throw a touchdown. Had an interception in that game. This was C.J. Stroud's Troy Smith Illinois game.
Didn't Fields have an absolutely atrocious game in 2020 as well? I forget who they played, but it was like bad. It was like bad. Was it Northwestern? Indiana. Well, Sun Card said Indiana. No, it was not the Big Ten championship. No. He did not play well in that game either, but no, he had like an abysmal game. Like he was like fumbling and intercepting. We were forced to show our hand on the quarterback run, Gross. Yeah, Ryan Day, and once again, the doctor lies. Ryan Day proved what I've been saying all along, and the doctor doesn't lie when he agrees with what I've been saying all along in this. So when it confirms what I believe, then the doctor's not lying. That's the subcategory of the rule. Ryan Day confirmed what I've been saying all along. CJ Stroud wants to run. Ryan Day won't let him. I've been saying this since the beginning of last year. It's not that CJ Stroud doesn't want to run. It's that Ryan Day does not want him to run. Been saying it for a year and a half. Well, and by a half, I mean a half of a season, not literally 6 months. But y'all get what you mean.
No, they were right. It was the Big Ten championship game where he was atrocious. He was atrocious in that game. 12
Was it
for
really?
27, 12 for 27, 114 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 interceptions.
I would have sworn. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, my memory sucks, Nomad. I probably should have trusted you. It was his worst game that year. Okay, everyone's saying I'm wrong. Fair. My memory sucks. Julian Fleming had a bunch of drops. Yeah, and so, I mean, let's not just single out. So did Emeka Ibuka.
Stover did as well.
So did basically everyone except Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah,
but even Marvin Harrison Jr. and CJ Stroud, and I think CJ Stroud was correct, by the way. Yeah, there were a couple just totally errant throws. Yeah, this game. That's what I mean.
Yeah, I guess if you're going to have one of these games during the year, let it be the worst team you play.
That's true. That's true. Thank God the defense played well. Had this been last year, Ohio State might lose this game.
Oh, they would have. I think they would.
I don't know. Northwestern's offense is pretty terrible. And they couldn't throw the ball either, and that was Ohio State's main issue, was stopping the pass.
They were almost 50% on third down conversions, Jared. Yeah. But I mean, even though Northwestern was 9 for 20 on third downs, anytime they went for a fourth down, Ohio State stopped them. There was at least that.
And by the way, it seems like there's a certain section of the fan base that will just pick one thing and then that's their opinion for the rest of the year. You know what I mean? Whether it's last year, everyone hating on Tommy Eichenberg, y'all look real silly right about now. This year, it's just this team isn't tough. That's just what all the lazy. Anytime Ohio State doesn't play well, this team is soft. Man, did you see them stopping those fourth down runs? To be fair, I always look silly. Yes, you do, Suncard, but that's why we like you.
Yeah. All right, Jared. Let's go ahead and we'll continue this discussion, but let's go ahead and start grading the different groups here, starting with the coaching staff as a whole. And people in the chat here, I think Nomad and Spikes is already already well ahead of me here. But yeah, go ahead and rate A to F here. What would you grade the coaching staff as a whole? And as a whole, I'd probably give the coaching staff a D plus. A D plus overall here.
I think I'm going to save my bad grade specifically for the offensive coaching.
That's why mine's a D plus, Jared.
Because I do think there was a lot of little things done correctly in this game. So I'm not going to trash the overall coaching. I wait till we get to the offensive coaching. I have my big ugly red stamp coming for that one. But the overall coaching, just like a C, I think is fine.
All right. So let's do the offensive coaching. I know a lot of people in the chat here have their opinions on the offensive coaching, and I might agree. I'm giving an
M minus, a C minus, an F.
You have a
D,
total of
another D,
under 300 total yards against one of the worst defenses. And yes, I know weather has a lot to play into it, but so the talent that this team is, and you only put up 280 yards of offense here. F.
I think that's harsh.
Expectations, Jared. Expectations, knowing what this team can do, the talent that this team has, and it was pathetic. Enough.
So, but with expectations, you also have to take into consideration everything. You have to take into consideration the weather. You have to take into consideration the lack of healthy running backs that they have. You need to take into consideration a lot of things. As you correctly pointed out earlier in the show, though, they should have been better prepared for the weather. It's not like this storm front, these weather conditions came out of nowhere. We literally knew this might be the situation, like I said, last Wednesday. So they're still going to get a low grade. They're still going to get a low grade for that. Don't get me wrong. But as Nomad points out in the chat, Day was willing to change it up. We did see a different form of the offense in the second half. We saw them take at least the running version of the training wheels off of CJ Stroud. They let him go do his thing. I think the play calling in light of the weather, they earned such a low, why they earned such a low grade. Yeah, I agree, Randy. Ohio State was not equipped to play this game. They needed to get one of their backup tackles a tight end number. You know what I mean? Like, these are the things you had to prepare for beforehand. You needed to get some of your tackles some like tight end eligible numbers, and you had to get ready to go do what Northwestern did. But Northwestern knew what was coming, and they, like I said, they turned themselves into Navy for a game. Yeah, exactly, Nomad. So go do it.
Obvious. It was so obvious seeing that Mine Williams was not 100% here, but yet he got the carries. There's no other running back that got the carry, and there's so many guys to be like, give another running back a shot. Just give him a shot. I mean, we've seen that in the past, and it turned out pretty well. There's very rarely that when a backup running back for Ohio State came in, when your starter struggled, that backup shows up. It's that next man up here.
Nomad asks, where's Dallin? Spikes says who was available. Dallin Hayden was available, as was they had Chip Trainum available to play running back as well. The question has to sort of be, how ready are those guys to play a full offense?
Then that goes back to the coaching staff and not getting this team ready. Then if they're not comfortable having a backup running back, be it your fourth string running back, not game ready for a 1-win team here, that's an issue. That's a big issue.
Someone said that Day is turnover adverse, so Mayan plays.
Was just sleepwalking, like, oh yeah, well, we got injuries. It's Northwestern. We'll figure it out next game. Like, I feel like that they did not put any effort into this game until halftime when they decided to make some adjustments to eventually win.
I mean, like, maybe Ryan Day knows something we don't know as far as like, is Hayden capable of running in? Okay, like everything's wet. He's a freshman. You know, it's a situation in which you're going to be like, does Hayden have fumble issues in practice? We haven't seen it in his late game carries. I'm just acknowledging that maybe Day knows something we don't.
Maybe.
But it's I need to grade the offensive coaching staff. Yes. It's still like a D+ for me, because they did make good adjustments. They did win the game. And they had just a lot going against them.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on here. We're going to go through.
How do you know if you don't try? Nomad, this is one of those games in which a poorly timed turnover can cost you the game.
Yeah, and then surprisingly, for how bad the weather was, there was zero turnovers. There were 0 turnovers in this game.
Maybe so. Nomad, you ask, how do you know if you don't try? Maybe they have. Maybe they had the ball soaking at practice, and maybe they sent Hayden. Yeah. And maybe they sent Hayden into a straight down the line, and maybe he fumbled it too often. I don't know. And I'm just saying, like, we do have to acknowledge that we're not at practice and we don't see everything.
Yeah. All right. We do have to move on here. So let's get on to the quarterback rating here. Quarterback as a whole, 10 for 26, only 76 yards, looks terrible on paper here. He did add on 79 rushing yards, career best at Ohio State here. but have to take in consideration a lot of, not a lot, but there's quite a few of those passes were not caught. There were quite a few drop passes, which is very uncharacteristic for this team here. So
Which
I'm not going to. I'm not going to grade him terribly. I'll say like a C minus for Stroud. I think there was some poor decision making for Stroud, and yeah, I think he'll get better from this game, but definitely his worst performance at Ohio State. So I'd say like a C minus.
I think y'all are being, Spike, you said C. Spike says C plus. Randy says C. He rushed for some yards, had some passes dropped, and fought bad weather. Randy, to me, you said C, but then you gave an argument as to why it should be more than a C.
The quarterback, sun guard.
Yeah, CJ Stroud, but just the quarterback group. I don't even know if it's fair to grade him.
It is.
Especially from a passing standpoint. I'll give him a like a B plus. I know he didn't perform well, but I just don't see watching the game anywhere where it's like, well, it's his fault. 50 mile an hour wind gust. What's he supposed to do? Yeah, he kept his composure. He ran well when he was actually allowed to do it. He saved the game. In many ways, he saved the game. He got a crucial first down on a run. He got the biggest play of the game on his feet. What else do you want from him? I throw that ball on target every time, but I've been taught how to account for wind. 50 mile an hour wind gust is not something you easily account for.
All right, I'm going to grade the offensive line here. 0 sacks in this game. The team does rush for over 200 yards. Does rush for over 200 yards in this game, which they haven't rushed for over 100 yards in the previous 2 games. So I mean that's a plus here. So as an offensive line overall, I'd give them maybe a B minus, something like that. There were definitely times in this game, especially on short yardage too, some critical 3rd and shorts, even on 4th and short, the offensive line just got pushed around. Got pushed around when they shouldn't have been. So yeah, I would say a B minus for this offensive line.
I mean, they're only 5 guys and they were going against stacked boxes. You can't completely hold that against them. I do think there were individuals on the offensive line who struggled, but I also think that there were more individuals on the offensive line who played very well. CJ Stroud was kept clean most of the game. Tight end assistance on the inside. More tight end assistance on the inside. By the way, just Spikes made me literally laugh out loud. He says, hold on. Spikes literally made me laugh out loud. He goes, that wasn't a wind, that was a tropical depression. Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, that seriously, like, I know it sounds like it's an excuse, but 50 mile an hour wind gusts are nothing to be ignored when you can't throw the ball 10 yards without and again, this is why Ryan Day said there were so many dropped passes, is that the ball was curving and wobbling even on throws as short as 10 yards.
Mm-hmm. All right. What would you grade the offensive line then, Jared?
I'd say like a B. I think you're right, because there are individuals who played well, there are individuals who played poorly, and the box was just stacked the entire game. So even though the running backs did not perform well, then the blocking was not good. I can't trash the offensive line for that.
All right. Then we're moving on to the running backs. Mainly Mine Williams here. Grading Mine Williams, and I'd give him a B minus here. There were certain plays, like I think he might have been tunnel vision on some of those runs there, but when you rewatch, again, hindsight's 2020 here, but when you rewatch the game or watch a instant replay of the play he just ran, if you actually saw the cutback, he had a lot of green. He just, I don't know what was up with Mayan Williams in that game, but there was times when he should have just went east and west instead of side to side line there. Like it's, and the decision making on which hole to go to. Mayan Williams. It was not his night there. Yeah, I meant north to south. Yes. Sorry.
That's not who Mayan Williams is, for what it's worth. Like he sees the hole, he goes to the hole. If you want someone who's going to bust things outside, who has like that great lateral jump cut, who can bust things outside much more easily, that's what Trey's for. I do think this would have been a better Trey game, but
yes,
Trey was hurt.
It definitely would have been a better Trey Henderson game here. I feel like the run play calling should have been more of not a zone read, but more of like what Northwestern did. You just have your blocks and you go straight towards the lineman or the linebacker that you're trying to block, and let your running back get those 3-4 yards there. And that's what Northwestern was doing.
I need to destroy Nomad for a moment. So get a running back too who can, if Trey is hurt, have another available. You mean like Evan Pryor? Is that who you mean? Okay, just curious. Do you mean someone like Evan Pryor? Come on now. Ohio State was down, of their top 4 running backs. Well, their top 5. Of their top 5 running backs, 3 of them were not available.
What would you grade the running backs, Jared?
There were no holes to run to. And when there were, I thought Mayan did well. So I think your B- is fair.
Okay. All right. Moving on here. Wide receivers here. I'd give the wide receivers a D. I'd give them a D here. Way too many drops here. Not enough separation on a lot of the play calling or a lot of the plays that were developed here. And you talked about, they're putting 9, 10 in the box there. These wide receivers should have gotten open here. They should have, and they didn't. And any chance that the ball came to them, if your name wasn't Marvin Harrison Jr., you dropped a pass or 2 or 3. Yeah, it was a terrible showing from the wide receivers.
Let me say it like this. If you can't throw the ball further than 10 yards down the field, that leaves you a lot less field to get open.
Okay, what did Northwestern do?
They didn't throw the ball well.
They threw better than CJ Stroud did.
How? By throwing swing passes, by doing a lot of that shit that we didn't want Ohio State to do. If you listened to the show last week, did they literally threw for 3 more yards?
They threw for 3 more yards, but of the times that they threw it, they threw a lot better percentage than CJ Stroud did.
Again, because they were throwing high percentage passes.
Was 10 for 14.
Right.
It was 10 for 14.
Because they were throwing swings and screens.
Okay.
But it didn't do any better. It did 3 yards better. So congrats on your completions if they didn't go anywhere.
All right, what would you grade the wide receivers here, Jared?
I'm just saying, like, I think it's easy to trash the receivers here, but if you can't throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field, and by the way, this also counts the outside. We talk about how good Northwestern's linebackers actually are. On a terrible team, they actually have really nice linebackers. You can't then even throw to the outside very easily because, again, a little bit of geometry. It's a lot more yards to throw outside as opposed to inside. So it's hard to throw to the sidelines. It's hard to throw more than 10 yards down the field. What do you actually even have available to throw? You say, oh, the wide receivers can't get open. Where on the field could they actually even have caught the ball? And then when the ball was getting to him, it was curving and knuckleballing, which is why we saw those drops. I think it's easy to trash the receivers here, but I want to take, so like a B- is fine to me. I kind of want to take the entire offensive side of this game, throw it in the burn pile and just move on. Like I learned nothing about our offense this game. Absolutely nothing. Like I take nothing away from this game offensively. It just totally doesn't even matter to me, if I'm being honest.
All right.
These guys are supposed to be elite pass catchers. They are elite pass catchers, but I've already addressed why that doesn't matter in this game.
All right. Tight ends here. I'd say C. I'd say C for the tight ends here. Nothing spectacular, nothing terrible. Couple of drop passes. So I'd say a C.
That's fine. I agree.
Okay. All right, moving to the defensive side. So defensive coaching as a whole, I'd probably give the defensive coaching probably a B- somewhere around there. There were definitely times that we were kind of just hitting our desks, hitting our chairs here, be like, what kind of play calling we calling? We can't stop the Wildcat formation, and their running back or their quarterback's running all over us here. But they made adjustments at the halftime here, and 7 points. They only had up 7 points in this game here. So I would say a B overall. There's definitely things to need to work on when it comes to a mobile quarterback, but I think overall, yeah, it was fine. The defense did fine. They did what they needed to.
I don't think that, I don't think their quarterback leaving the game had that big of an effect. Helinski barely played. He only had like 3 attempts.
Yep.
I don't think it played that big of a factor. The defense. He is a good runner, but I think that it was late in the game. It was too late in the game for it to have mattered that much. Yeah, it was when the game was over already. It was late in the game. Yeah, what Gangland and Randy are saying. Defensive coaching, I think it's like a B+. I think they should have been, I'm knocking them down a couple grades because I think they should have been prepared. Again, Northwestern went into this game saying, hey, we're Navy. We're Navy. This, if it had to have struck someone else that this felt like watching a military academy game when it's just so like, you know, you're not going to lose to Navy. You know, you're not going to lose to Navy, but God, it's just so frustrating watching the game because they're so good at just getting 4 yards every time. You're not going to lose. They're not going to beat you doing that, but God, they're going to make you tear your hair out. And I will knock the defensive coaching a bit for not being more prepared that Navy was going to do that given the weather. And this should have been a game again where they were more prepared for that, I think. But they made great halftime adjustments. They completely shut him down in the second half, so I'm not going to totally kill him. I think a B+ is fair.
Okay. All right, defensive ends here. I think defensive ends played pretty well overall. Where were the final stats here? So defensive ends, JT had 4 tackles. One of them a tackle for loss. Harrison had 3, 1 for a loss. John Baptiste had 2. I thought overall they did pretty well. So I'd probably give the defensive ends probably an A-.
Yeah, JT almost had another pick 6. That would have been awesome. In retrospect, we didn't know it at the time. In retrospect, it would have helped a lot. It was too early. It was too early in the game for us to realize how big of a deal that actually would have been. It would have made the game look a hell of a lot different. Yeah. By the way, Ohio State should have taken the win in the first half. They won the toss, didn't they?
No, Northwestern did.
But Northwestern deferred?
They deferred.
If I'm Ohio State, I let Northwestern have the ball and I take the win. If they could have gotten big, if they could have gotten up big, that would have just like ended the game quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I think that means they choose to kick. No, that means they defer their decision until the second half.
The second half, yeah.
They just say we want to receive. That just means I want to receive the ball, or I want to make my decision, which normally translates into I want the ball in the second half. So
yeah,
they're just saying they're deferring their choice to the second half. Ohio State can do whatever they want at that point. They can choose to kick. They can choose to receive. They can choose which side of the field they want to defend. Ohio State can choose whatever they want at that point. All right. Defensive ends. Yeah, I think I think you're A minus, A plus. I'm gonna go with a solid A. I think Harrison had another good game. I think JT had another good game. I'm gonna give him a solid A.
Okay. All right. Defensive tackles. I don't know how to grade the defense.
You're right on time, Matt.
In this game here. I mean, Vincent had a great game. He had 5 tackles in this game here. He was fantastic. Tyleek had a pair of tackles here. I'd probably give him the same grade, maybe like an A minus. I think overall the defensive tackles did just as well as the defensive ends.
Yeah. And I sort of put early run defense issues more on the coaching than I do the players. Which I think we saw that in the second half when adjustments were made, right? Once they were sort of put into a better opportunity to succeed in the second half, we saw that. So yeah, I think your A minus or just a straight A is fine by me.
Mm-hmm. All right. And linebackers here. Tommy Eichenberg, Jared, 13 tackles, 10 of those were solo tackles.
To answer your question, Nomad, that. No, I thought the linebackers, again, played well. There should have been a third linebacker on the field. This should have been a 2 safeties with Cody Simon on the field game.
Yes, it should have been.
That would have helped, yeah. I think Knowles needs to acknowledge that some games are going to be those games in the Big Ten, which he has acknowledged, but I think he needs to acknowledge that that's going to be the case more often than he's currently acknowledging. Does that make sense? Yes. But when you have, again, I'm going to say it for the 100th time, 30-degree sustained winds, 30 mile an hour sustained winds, 50-mile-an-hour wind gust, I think you don't need 3 I don't think you need 5 defensive backs. Yeah, I got there eventually. I don't think that's a game in which you need 5 defensive backs. I think that's a game in which you need Cody Simon, Tommy Eichenberg, and Steel Chambers, all 3 on the field at the same time.
Yep.
This wasn't a good O-line when we went up against, right? They have an elite left tackle.
Yes, that's it.
I'm not going to say the entire offensive line's good. It's not. It's not. But it is. They do have an amazing left tackle for what that's worth. Like a straight up first round NFL draft pick left tackle.
Yeah, I'd probably say an A minus as well. I think an A minus.
I give him an A. Again, I think a lot of the struggles with the running game were schematic and not on the players themselves.
Yep. All right. Moving on over cornerbacks. You know, one of the things about being a cornerback is not having your name called.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've really heard many times that a corner's name was brought up, which is good. Denzel
Burke actually made a couple good tackles. I mean, and not. I only remember one of those being in pass coverage. I'm talking like, Northwestern was trying to run on the perimeter. And I think there may have been a couple bubbles, a couple screens that he made good tackles on. JK did have. He had some sort of stupid penalty. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. Does anyone in chat remember what it was? But yeah, no Cam Brown again for this game.
Yeah. So,
but it's also an A- I think is good for me here.
Okay. All right, and the safeties. I'd probably give them an A as well. Couple of well, there's one in particular. Was it Burke? No, I don't think it was Burke. It was somebody else. Maybe it was Ransom. Yeah, it was Ransom who had that touchdown saving tackle. I think it was in the third quarter. I want to say it was. Their running back got past the second level, and then Ransom was there and made a shoelace tackle to save that touchdown.
Yeah, and we saw Hickman playing up a lot. Sort of like if you need a little bit of a third linebacker, they brought Hickman up some. So that, and he was doing very well in that role. Did he have? I feel like he had a lot of tackles, just per my memory of watching the game. Yeah, Hickman had 10 tackles, 6 of them solo. Hickman had a good game. I thought the safeties played well. I think ideally this isn't a game in which, ideally I would say this is a game in which like I wouldn't want there to be a lot of safeties getting tackles. Like, I don't think that's the ideal situation to be put in. Unfortunately, your second and third top tackle getters were both safeties, but they were called upon to do something and they did it. So I'd give them like an A+, honestly.
Yep. Okay. And then special teams. I mean, special teams is what's I think, well, along with the quarterback too, is what hurt them the most in terms of what the weather brought here. But I thought Mirko did an excellent job overall. A couple of those kicks that he had, it was just unfortunate bounce or unfortunate wind when he kicked the ball, but it is what it is. So I'd say like an A-.
Yeah, that's fine. Again, like it's hard to like with CJ Stroud, it's almost impossible to give the kickers like a prop and for the returners too, because of, Northwestern's kickers were dealing with the same crap. It's almost impossible to grade the special teams in this game. They didn't make a mistake, so they get an A-.
Yes. All right. Let's give out some Buckeye leaves, Jared. And we're going to start with the offense here. Who on the offense deserves a Buckeye leaf?
Who on the offense deserves a Buckeye leaf? I'm going to give it to CJ Stroud. The 76-yard run, or however he had, how long, CJ, 44-yard run. 44-yard run, broke the game open, made it a game.
Yeah, it was the only play that went. Yeah, the only play in the entire game that went over 30 yards.
Yeah. Like, I really want people to understand that. The 44, what was the second longest play?
Mayan Williams touchdown.
Of 27 yards. The longest plays in this game that I can find quickly were CJ Stroud's run of 44 yards, Mayan Williams' run for 27 yards. Evan Hall, the Northwestern running back, had a run for 17 yards. Cam Porter had a run for 19 yards. So I guess that would actually be third place.
One of the two runs, I guess they're technically called runs, Ibuka went for 15 yards. And the longest reception of the game was 15 yards.
The longest reception of the game was 15 yards. If that gives you any indication of what this game was.
Yeah. I'll give the ball to Chop. I'll give it to Chop. Even playing hurt, definitely some times when it was questionable of which hole he should be going to. But I mean, runs for over 100 yards in this game, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, I'd give it the chop here.
By the way, how many people would have, like, at the end of the game, when you first saw Mine Williams at 100 rushing yards, over 100 rushing yards, were you surprised?
I was a little bit from what I saw in the first half. But the second half it opened it up for him.
Yeah.
All right, defense, Jared. On the defense side, I feel like he's just stacking up trophies here, or stacking up Buckeye leaves from us, Jared. I'd give it to, actually, I'll change it. Actually, I'll go with Hickman. I'll go with Hickman here. I was about to say Tommy Pickles, but I'm going to go with Hickman here. He had 10 tackles in this game here, made some crucial tackles. Yeah, I'll give Hickman my Buckeye leaf in this game.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna let me pick Tommy Pickle Eichenberg, this was that game. Like this is why you need a linebacker like Eichenberg on the team, is for games like this. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Hickman is also a solid choice.
All right, and my wild card, I'll give it to Mirko. I think I might have given it last week. I'm going to give it to Mirko here. He had 7 punts here, averaged 50 yards. Granted, he had to punt it both ways, though, so I'll consider that averaging it out. So he averaged 50 yards per punt. I'll give it to Mirko.
Fair enough.
Not micro. It's Mirko. Not micro. Who's your wild card? The Microsoft punter.
I'm going to give it to Zach Harrison. I think he had another really nice game. Doesn't show up in the stat sheet the way that's been the case for a lot of the defensive ends this year. But I'm going to give it to Zach Harrison, who I think is having a superb season.
Yeah, he absolutely is. All right, and all right, and I think we have like one question here, and then we'll call it an episode. Jared, Buckeye Esquire has a question for us.
See you, Randy.
Is it time? And I know you weren't wanting to point fingers or point names, Jared, but Buckeye Esquire says, is it time to experiment with a different right guard?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I say there are individuals on the offensive line having issues,
Well, wasn't it after the penalty? After, I think it was the second play. It was after the second play, and it was a penalty.
Yeah.
They took him out.
Yeah.
For a couple plays.
When we've seen Vamahi play in the past, he's played well. I really hesitate to say I know better than the coaches who see these guys every day. I'm always a little hesitant to say that, but yeah, Matt Jones struggles when it's a bigger defensive tackle, for sure. He struggles, and yeah, it doesn't. He's had 3 games in a row in which he's struggled. I think it's probably worth attempting at a certain point. And by the way, and just, I don't know, to spread it out a tad and not to like single out Jones, I think Whippler's been having issues playing as well. When I'm talking about the interior of the offensive line, I am not talking about Jackson. I'll say, is that the nicest way I can say it? I'm not talking about Jackson. You fill in the blanks from there. I don't know if I don't think Ohio State has a center to put in, but I do think that I know that they have Enoch Vamahi, who's, if nothing else, experienced and has been in the program for a long time and has played well when I've seen him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right.
We are here to win ships, not please linemen. I agree with you, Matt. I'm always incredibly hesitant to point fingers at specific, unpaid college athletes. I don't want to come on here and do the name and shame and it's just a thing I don't like doing. The coaches are paid a lot of money to make decisions to win championships. I don't want them to be, hesitant to make the right move out of loyalty or whatever. I'm just not going to come on here and rant and rave at a specific individual. And for anyone wondering, or anyone who's maybe getting ready to fire off a comment, the fact that there's now NIL in place does not change my opinion on this whatsoever. They're still not being paid to play football.
Yeah.
The university is not paying them.
All right. I think that's it, Jared. I think we'll call that an episode here. You got anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I think we're good. Kirk Buda says yes. What's in? Well, we're not there yet. Kirk, slow down. We're not there yet. Want to encourage everyone to hop by the Patreon. We do have a Patreon. We're trying to get those numbers up a tad. So it's only $3 a month. And that honestly gets you a lot. We had our most attended and active social screen event, which we do every Saturday so far this year. We had a ton of people in the watch party this week. It was fantastic. Do you guys have a mouse pad with a Sloopcast logo? I really want one for work. Let me check. By the way, we have t-shirt stores. You can merch.thesloopcast.com and 7071.thesloopcast.com. Last I checked, they didn't have a mouse pad option, but I also haven't checked in a while. So let me go see if I am able to do that, Matt. And if I am, I will let you know. See you, gangland. The time change doesn't take place where you are. That's fair. So yeah, check out the merch stores. Check out our Discord server. Again, we had a wild time watching both Clemson and Bama lose in our social screen, which is like a watch along party. It was wild. It was fun. Y'all should have been there. And you can be there. Discord.thesloopcast.com. Kyle, do you have anything in Kyle's Corner?
Kind of staying with the Buckeye theme here, Jared. Justin Fields. Justin Fields had himself a heck of a game on Sunday here. He rushed for 178 yards, breaking Michael Vick's record for a regular season rushing yards by a quarterback.
So you're saying that two Ohio State quarterbacks ran for more yards than they threw for this weekend?
Yes, that is true.
Listen, when you play for Chicago and you have Chicago's offensive line, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough for Chicago to win, though.
Well, you can only do what you can do, but you do what you got to do.
Yep.
That makes sense. That makes sense. No one question it. Tonight's ending music will be by a Columbus-based band called Pray for Sleep. The name of the song. That's right. I actually know the song ahead of time. I was feeling professional today. It's called Ask Us So name of the band, Pray for Sleep. Name of the song, Ask Us. So with all that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course support your local podcasters. Once again, this is Pray for Sleep.